money-making schemes? That is what one constitution framer thinks will happen once legislators successfully tinker with the 1987 charter.
The real motive is profit. RBH2 is a new and bigger source of illicit money than the pork barrel.
I am really not in favor of any charter change. Perhaps, baka sabihin ko pa nga, kailangan natin CHA, CHA din, character change. Baka yun naman importante.
A single inclusion in the economic provisions of the Constitution may already trigger corrupt activities. This is according to one of the framers of the 1987 Constitution, who said there have been 6 previous but unsuccessful attempts to amend the Charter. Should Congress continue amending the Charter?
Meanwhile, one of the highly anticipated infrastructure projects, the new Manila International Airport in Bulacan, is being touted by some as a potential white elephant that will be granted tax exemptions but could be underwater after many decades, and which by that time will be operated by the government. Should we be more concerned about this undertaking? We discuss in this episode of The Chiefs.
And welcome to this Monday edition of The Chiefs. Of course, with us tonight in the studio is Robbie Alampay of One News, and joining us online is Ana Marie Pamintuan of the Philippine Star from the port area, and of course, Luchi Cruz Valdez, the head of News 5. Ladies and Robbie, good evening and happy Monday.
Happy Monday! Another week.
Monday.
Your top story today was about the EO on pork prices.
Yes, magpa-price cap for a number of months. That yan ang order ngayon ng Pangulo.
Kasi ang taas nga naman. Pumapalo ng minsan 400 per kilo.
400 a kilo.
No.
Which is surprising kasi if you check with the DA, mukha naman we have sufficient supply.
Kaya nga hindi pa
Middlemen nga raw eh.
Even the retailers couldn't quite explain it, di ba?
So, may nambababoy ng law of supply and demand. So, sabihin na,
Tanong mo mamaya sa guest natin.
Kailangan pasok na yung guest kapag ganyan.
Monday jokes, okay. Well, as we promised in our introduction, we are going to talk about, among other things, the move to amend the Constitution, and as well the Bulacan Airport project. We begin tonight with the move to amend the Constitution, and joining us tonight is one of the framers of the 1987 Constitution, Attorney and former Commissioner Winnie Monsod, who joins us tonight. Well, Commissioner Monsod, thank you for joining us, and welcome back to the Chiefs.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, sir. Well, sir, of course, you have registered your opposition to the move to amend the economic provisions of the Constitution. Well, in this particular case, gusto nila constituent assembly of sorts. But let me back up a bit and ask you this. Kasi mukhang they are intent on pursuing yung one line na yon na unless otherwise provided for by law. Mukhang they are intent on putting those lines in the economic provisions. Is there anything at all that can legally stop them from doing that?
Under the Constitution, pwede naman magkaroon ng Constituent Assembly by a 3/4 vote of the Congress. And our interpretation of that is that is a separate vote.
Opo. Voting separately. Pero po,
Pero once you've convened it, it has plenary powers. It can do everything.
Yes, sir.
Yung sinasabi nilang limited lang sa economic provision amendments, hindi totoo yun. Maski na anong instruction ang ibigay ng Congress doon sa Constituent Assembly, baliwala yun. The Constituent Assembly has plenary powers.
You're saying it opens the doors to all other possible amendments. But let me zero in
Yes.
on that line that they insist they want to insert, and they claim to be innocuous. Can they do that and in effect appropriate for Congress the power of changing Constitution?
Yes, they can. Pwede. They can do it.
Okay.
Pero Commissioner, if it was, talaga bang ganon? That was the intent of the framers na parang napakadali palang i-amend naman yung
Hindi. Kasi under the...
Kasi parang yun ang perception ngayon. Ganun pala kadali yun eh. Ganun ba talaga?
No, it's not that easy. Because kailangan lumusot pa sila sa Congress assuming na separate vote is the process, kasi sabi naman nung House Speaker, siya for separate vote din. Okay. Just the numbers. Under the Constitution, yung Constituent Assembly is 3/4 vote of the Senate and 3/4 vote of the House. That is 18 out of 24 in the Senate. And in the House, about how many is that?
300
3/4 of about
congressmen.
300, correct? About 270,
150,
more or less.
75. Yes.
265, okay? Now, once you pass that provision, unless otherwise provided by law, the constitutional provision becomes meaningless. All right? So, what do you need in order to pass a ordinary law of Congress changing yung percentages limits of foreign investment?
Majority.
The Senate, first you have a quorum. So if you have Senate, you have to have 13, a quorum of 13, and a majority vote of the quorum passes the law. So you only need,
Yes.
theoretically, 7 senators. Now, if you do the same thing with the House, I think it's about 75 members of the House. Mas matli yun kesa sa 3/4, di ba? That's why they want to take over that power because it makes it easier for them to pass the law on the percentage. Kasi
Okay.
yung unless provided by law, wala pa tayong dinidisco ng percentage. Now, that will now become the power of Congress. Now, guessing game. If you were a corrupt congressman and you have mining companies with a lot of money, and this has happened before, what I call transactional legislation. Napakadaling pumunta, boss, anong gusto mo? 51%. Merong siyempre tayong balato. Gusto nyo 67%, mas mataas. 75%, mas mataas. Lalo na kung 100%. That's now the power of Congress. It is so prone to corruption because the money is staggering. Yung ating natural resources, ang value estimate is almost $1 trillion. $1 trillion. So ilan yun? Ilan yung trillion pesos? About 48? Or something like that? Okay. Ano na lang yung 5%? Ano na lang yung 10% na barato? You get me?
Yes.
And then, that power is from one Congress to another. Pwedeng itaas, pwedeng ibaba, pwedeng itaas, pwedeng ibaba. It's a continuous source of corruption. Isn't it?
Well, I hope I don't sound ridiculous here, but I just want to echo, and I'm not saying it sounded ridiculous, but I just want to echo essentially what members of Congress have said on the show and have told media. Basically, well, you're just going to have to trust us. They have literally said that. Look, you just have to trust us that we will limit ourselves to economic provisions. You're just going to have to trust us that once we have that power, we will do right by it. What do you say to that, sir?
Well, do you think you can trust Congress? The Constitution said that they should pass an anti-dynasty law. Have they acted on it in 30 years? No. The Constitution says that ang problema ng ating bayan is centuries of injustice to the poor. Kaya we have what we call unjust structures in our country. That's why the heart of the Constitution, 1987 Constitution, is social justice and human rights. Wala yan sa old constitutions natin. Because sabi namin, it's about time we change. So number one principle and theme of the 1987 Constitution is social justice. Correct? Now, how has Congress performed on social justice? There are 4. But social justice is education and health. They have failed because the quality of education, the quality of health care for the poor is different from the rich. Correct? They have failed. Now, asset reform, agrarian reform, urban land reform, and housing, fisheries, at saka ancestral domain.
Okay.
All those asset reform programs are underperforming. Why? Because Congress put loopholes in the law, because Congress underfunded these programs, tapos yung mga self-interest pumapasok sa implementation of the law. And that's why all those programs are underperforming.
Yeah, but-
every administration,
Sir-
But
since
sir,
EDSA
if I,
has failed.
yeah, but sir, I just want your thoughts on this because most of the objections here, even from members of Congress, have to do just with process, have to do with timing. It's not. It doesn't really seem to be on the level of the content and on that particular proposal. In fact, there seems to be political will, both from the executive and the legislature.
Ayaw nila pag-usapan ng content kasi talo sila ron. First
Sir,
of all,
so
siya
ibalik ko
sinasabi
sa-
let me just one more point.
Okay.
So, in social justice and education and health, ang sinasabi ko lang, bakit naging magic bullet ang foreign direct investment? Why is it now, you're saying everything's fine, ito lang ang kailangan natin, okay na tayo? Mali yun. Hindi tama
Well,
yun.
okay, the reasons they cite for that is that the Philippines is supposedly lagging behind in terms of our economy, our economic growth, because of our very restrictive foreign ownership laws. So my question to you is this: in principle, if they were going to amend the Constitution so that it's not as simple as adding that line as provided for by law, but instead setting a percentage that is higher than the 60-40 now, and finding that good balance, is that something that would benefit the economy, the country in general? Is
No.
that something that would be acceptable to you? In other words, in principle, no, not at all. In other words,
Yeah,
you would
because-
keep it at 60-40.
No. Because the premise is wrong. They are saying that foreign investment is not coming in, assuming we need foreign investment, it's critical, because of the Constitution. But that's not the case. The studies show, World Investment Report, the ADB study, it's authored by Jeffrey Sachs, says that what is important are adequate infrastructure, skill level of human capital, quality of general regulatory framework, clear rules of the game, fiscal determination, graft and corruption, criminality, instability of government. And in the case of the Philippines, the main reason is wrong policies and weak institutions. That's the reason they're not coming in, if they wanted to. And then, you remember when the Japanese Chamber of Commerce was telling us that yung Chinese and Japanese companies going out of China, namimili sila where they will invest. Vietnam, Indonesia, Thailand. Number 4 lang tayo. Number 4. Why? Because of these reasons. Because the rule of law is weak. Because the checks and balances are weak. Because we have failed in many of these criteria for foreign investment. Yung lang
Pero sir,
sabihin mong
yes, sir.
unstable yung policies, nag-iiba-iba.
Yes, sir.
Tama?
Pero sir, conversely, sir, some have also argued conversely that yung liberalization of foreign investments has proven to have worked well for some of these
Well,
countries, like for example Vietnam.
Vietnam, if you take a look at the history of foreign direct investment, yung Asian tigers, China, Korea, Taiwan, and China, foreign direct investment is only 2% of total investment. Even today, in our country, sabi nila 8 to 10% of foreign direct investment. That means 92% is local, domestic investment. Why don't they concentrate on that?
Yeah.
Why aren't we? Why aren't we investing more domestically? Now we're going to get foreign direct investment.
Yeah. I mean,
But
mamaya,
it did not play a part. It did not play a part in the high growth rate of the Asian tigers, and even today.
yeah.
Even today.
Yeah, Commissioner, we have
For,
Yeah, Commissioner, later we'll have an economist also joining us on this show, and I imagine she will have a lot to say also. But therefore, I wanted therefore also to take you back to the question of process, because as you said kanina, no, ayaw nila pag-usapan yung content kasi talo sila sa content. But my question was actually coming from the other side. My question was precisely, no, it seems like yung content decidido sila doon, but the opposition is on the timing and the process, precisely because those trying to oppose it on the level of timing and process they have a better leverage to say that, look, we're entering election season, we don't have time for this, and so on. So I want to talk about the process as laid down by the Constitution. If,
Those are the
to Ed's
tactics.
point, if we get to the point
Okay.
that they push ahead with the Constituent Assembly, is there any stopping that, whatever the content is?
No, once a year ahead, but it still goes to plebiscite.
Yes, sir.
Correct? All right. So, you know, it's very simple. You know, you're talking about tactics on protest timing and so on. I'm talking about strategic objective, about the vision for our country. Right? That our main problem is mass poverty and gross inequality. So every legislation should be pointed towards addressing those two major visions of the Constitution. Kung hindi, we will remain the same. Every administration since EDSA has failed to fulfill that vision. You took from Cory to today.
Yeah.
That is unfair and unjust to the poor. And you know, without equality, without better equality, there is a ceiling to growth. And high growth is necessary to address poverty. It's a vicious cycle, correct? That's why to me, the more important problem is why don't we address inequality and then mass poverty? But inequality is terrible. With some improvement, now it's worse. And it's all over the world, by the way, all over the world. So what do we do as a country? Pass a law that gives Congress the power to change it from 40 to 50 to 60 to 70. That's nothing, because foreign direct investment is not the key to addressing our problem of mass poverty and gross inequality.
Sir, we're sorry that we keep going back to the process kasi may some sort of agreement already by both leaders of Congress, both chambers.
Yes.
Senate President
Yeah.
Tito Soto agrees on that one-liner, and the same goes, of course, with Speaker Lord Alan Velasco. Mukhang hindi lang sila nagkakasundo sa semantics pero mukhang otherwise good to go silang dalawa.
You want to bet that they need 18 votes, by the way.
Opo.
You want to bet they won't make 18?
Oh, really? You think so? Because there seems to be unanimity already.
Yeah?
Yes. Well,
At least
that
in
is how
leadership.
it appears to most, no? Yeah.
A bottle of wine.
Oh. Okay. Sige, sir. Call. But, kaya ko yun. No, but really, okay.
Bakit nila winidraw? Bakit winidraw ng Congress and the political parties 6 times the change in the
Oh,
Constitution?
bakit? Bakit, sir?
Because they realize that the sentiment of the people is that these charter changes are it's self-gain. It's for them. It's a smoke screen. It means more power, and more power means more money for legislators. Hindi naman gago yung kababayan natin di ba? Even
Of course,
the
they're
Foreign
also
Chamber of
saying,
Commerce.
sir, no, they're saying that the factor that's thrown in to the arena right now is the pandemic and the fact that our economy shrunk negative 9.5, right? So they're saying that more than ever in the next 5 years, if we are to recover, we're going to need capital, and that capital is going to come from foreign direct investments. That's
Yes, from
how,
what?
yan ang bentahe nila, sir.
Oh, well, which country will come in? Everybody is suffering economic shortcomings. They have new virus and so on. Do you think they will come in droves here? The one who will come in is China, the favored country, China. Now, you ask the people, gusto pa ninyo pumasok dito in China at sa kanilang lupa, natural resources at sila magpapatakbo ng public utilities? They're already in the transmission grid, by the way. They're in the management, correct? On transmission. Now, tanong nyo sa tao, gusto ba ninyo yun?
Well, you put it,
Lupain?
you put,
100% ownership?
Yeah, well, to be fair, you put it that way, then it's pretty safe to sure. They don't even trust the vaccines. If you put it that way. But if
Nothing to
government
do
were
with
to put it
vaccines.
this way, that gusto nyo ba ng foreign investors para mapabilis ang paggawa ng ating mga pabrika, para dumami at ang trabaho, and so on. And let's face it, our electorate takes language at that level. And they will, there are
Okay.
many people who will fall for a populist line like that.
They might, but it's not a
Jobs.
fact. And the House and the leadership are lying to the people when they say that.
Yeah.
And we have the facts. Then let's go. Let's say, all right, show us how it will happen that way. Correct?
Yeah.
Even the foreign chambers say when you give 100% land to foreigners, the price of land goes up. Sinong kawawa? Sino hindi makakabili ng lupa? Yung mahihirap.
Yeah.
Di ba? Madali explain yon. Natural resources. Sabihin mo, tingnan mo yung mga indigenous people natin. They used to own all of this land. And then the Christians came. They pushed them to the mountains. Now they're in the mountains. Nandyan na yung mga foreign mining companies. And they not only have the right to concession on timber, they have the right to water. Correct? And forestry. That goes with the mining concession. Naintindihan nila yon kasi nandun sila eh. Nakikita nila nangyayari sa mahihirap at sa indigenous peoples. Correct?
Okay. Well, former CONCOM Delegate Christian Monsod, Commissioner, maraming salamat po for joining us tonight, and we would like to have you again very soon.
Salamat, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Kaya maraming salamat po.
Huwag niyo pong patayin na camera. dahil-
It's just that now you have to make way for somebody apparently more important than you.
No, mas magaling yan. Mas magaling yan. Okay.
You're probably wondering who we're talking about. Okay, you'll find out when you come back. Stay right there. The cheese will be right back.
Welcome back, the Chiefs, here on One News. We're now in the final stage of our conversation. Now joining us is Economist Professor Solita Winnie Monsod. Good evening, Professor Monsod.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah.
Teacher naming lahat.
Opo.
Who am I talking to?
I am
only
Robbie Alampay po with Ed Lingao,
Hi,
Ami
ma'am.
Pamintuan, and Lucy Cruz Valdez.
I know. I only see Lucy and Ami. I don't see any of.
Yeah, I am
Yes, ma'am.
They're in
We're-
the
Okay.
studio.
Robbie and I, we are in the studio.
Opo. We're in the studio. Anyway, ma'am,
What does that mean? That your face will not be seen by me?
kita
Yes, ma'am, unfortunately.
row 4 po kami, row 4. Row 4. near the exit. Near the exit of the auditorium.
Okay, dear.
Okay. Ma'am, all the question all the way from the back. Before we shift topics, earlier in the show we had a lawyer talking about economic provisions. We're just wondering, I mean, is there anything to correct, anything to qualify, anything to backstop about his concerns about the economic provisions in the Charter?
Absolutely not. I agree with him 100%.
Yeah, but let's get to the process. I mean, what's the worst case scenario here? Because as we were saying, there seems to be real political will on the part of the executive and the legislature and our legislators. They boil it down to a specific line. They're saying we'll keep it to one particular line that we want to insert. What are your concerns, whether it's the process, the timing, or as Atty. Monsod said, the content itself?
It's all of the above. All of the above. The timing, the content, the process. All wrong. That the content, because there is absolutely no reason to believe that foreign investment will all of a sudden blossom here in the Philippines just because we change the economic provisions of the Constitution. That was, I mean, all the studies have shown that the one thing that creates investment is, following the rules of the game, all the things that Christian was talking to you about, following the rules of the, making sure that nobody, walang mawawalaan, meaning to say that if somebody comes in, they're sure that the contracts that they hold are going to stay. Look what happened to the water contracts, yung water supply, yung Maynila and
Manila Water. Yes.
yeah, Manila Water.
Yeah.
I mean, they won an arbitration decision,
Right.
and the
Yes.
president just said, "I'm not going to do it." And of course, the people accepted it. I mean, they're Filipinos. The Consungis, I think, and the Ayalas. But do you think the foreign investors will
Yes.
not think twice, 3 times, 4 times? My God, they come in and then all of a sudden they're left without anything. Sus ko. Those are the kinds of things that everybody talks about as being the things that encourage foreign investment. So in terms of the content, wala. They just want, I really believe that. Yung,
Yes, sir.
all it takes is Congress to change the law, and that will create all sorts of that will create a lot of opportunities for investment. No, they won't come here unless the investment climate is right. And right now, the investment climate is not right.
Okay,
Ma'am, of course
then let's go to
Sige,
the
Lucy.
extreme of ownership and liberalizing ownership. What industries will be most let's say put at risk by a liberalizing of ownership?
Listen, if the climate was good, there will be investment from the Filipinos themselves. Look at our big our richest people, mainly the Chinese. They're the biggest investors in China and Taiwan. Why aren't they investing here? My goodness. They have not, and there is no limitations on their investment here, and they're not investing. Why are they doing it in China and in Taiwan and wherever it is? Because the investment climate is better there. So it's all you have to do. Di ba?
Okay, well, speaking of investments, siguro we can move on to the topic that was used to introduce you.
Yes,
You were right.
I thought you would
You
do.
mentioned, yeah, you mentioned the white elephant. You described there's an airport being planned sa Bulacan, and you said it's going to turn into a white elephant in about 50 years. Can you expound more on this?
You know, that all comes from the position papers of the groups who are opposing it. Who are the groups that are opposing it? First, you have the fisher folk. Then you have the wild birds, because they're all affected. Then you have the like organizations like Oceana. They all got together, put a fantastic position paper, presented it to Congress, each provision and saying why they were against it, etc. And they were heard, and that was it. And they still went on with the same thing. I mean, they still went on approving the project. When you're what did I mean when I said white elephant? Kasi sinabi yung mga grupo, yung environmentalists, etc. Sabi nila, yung lugar na yan, in the first place, that is going to cover a river. In the two barangays in Bulacan, it will cover a river. It will remove the tidal flats, mud flats that are very, very important in trying to prevent flooding. Mawawala lahat yan. That's supposed to be public land, but never mind. Let's just talk about what will happen to that airport. That airport is going to be built 3 meters above ground. Okay? Para mawala na raw yung flooding. E nakalimutan nila na yung rate of subsidence ng yung parting yon, actually the entire Manila Bay, is about 3.6 centimeters a year. So that in 12 years, let's see, sorry, what did I say about, what was the exact...
3.6 per year in 12 years would be 36 or almost 40 centimeters. I'm sorry, I'm doing quick math here.
8.3
So-
centimeters. 8.3 centimeters.
It's about 39,
Yes.
yeah, it's going to be 1 meter. In 12 years,
Yes.
just do the arithmetic.
Yes.
Sinabi ko ba 36? 36 ba yun?
8.3 centimeters times 12 equals 99.6 centimeters. Yes.
Ayan, that's it.
So almost
8.3 centimeters times 12 years, that's 99 centimeters. That's almost 1 meter. That's why I said in 31 years, talagang underwater na itong ating airport. And the government is going to take it after 50 years. So after 50 years, that thing is going to be 2 meters below sea level. That's what I meant. And that comes from those people who are saying, why are you doing it there? Hindi ko pa nasasabi na that area is on the path of the wild birds travel from
Sanctuary, yes.
Canada,
Right.
etc. They go right over that area. So
Migratory,
there's danger of bird strikes. Ang dami thing. They brought this all out. So I said, what pa? If in 50 years it's all flooded, what will the government get? Nothing. Meanwhile, it has forgone all the income taxes and business taxes and value-added taxes and custom duties. In-exempt nila lahat. Diyos ko, sabi ko, ano ba naman yan? Yung sa batas, whenever it is a project that is what do you call that? A project that is unsolicited.
Yes.
Yes, unsolicited.
You are not allowed to give any form of subsidy, and yet they're giving it. So they are absolutely just ignoring the law as if it were not there. And we are all accepting it kasi hindi ko nakita ito eh. I mean, my attention was so focused on COVID and the effect on the economy that I let this all go. And then when I looked at my materials, I said, my God, this thing is such a.
Pero wala
Yes,
pa, ma'am.
ma'am,
Do you think
on the position that a tax holiday, a tax break is in fact a subsidy, can that then be basis for a legal challenge to the contract?
Of course, but as a, of course, if you talk about a subsidy, anything that represents, government's loss of funds is a subsidy, naturally, hindi ba? So you can challenge that, but let us see, where are you going to challenge it? In the Supreme Court? After the president signed, the president allowed the bill to lapse.
To lapse into law, actually.
He just allowed the bill to lapse, so he did not sign it. You know that he's not really too anxious about it, but anyway, the group, the civil society, filed the writ of kalikasan in the Supreme Court. They filed it on December 15,
And it was
2020.
Yeah.
Would you believe that by January 5, meaning 15 days, and how many of those days were holidays? Sus, takot ng Christmas and New Year, etc. January 5, meron na silang decision saying that I think the decision was that the filing was insufficient in form. I
So
mean,
it can be refined.
well, I hope so, because there's always a 15 days. But the groups will fight it, and I think that it needs more publicity. So I am glad that you are bringing this out, and you are helping to tell to the public that this is something that we don't need. After I wrote that column, I got some feedback from the readers. One was a general, one was a former pilot. They were all nagsusumbong sila na this pilot said that, my God, it's the most sensible thing would be Sangli and Manila International Airport. Parang Sangli would be the second runway, and all it needed was a high-speed train from Sangli to Manila, Naiya. Kasimple-simple lang. And all of a sudden, you would have two runways, very, very long, no problem. All right? That's what the former pilot said. That's all that you need. You don't need all this
A mega-
environment crash,
Yes.
environment destroying project in Bulacan. It's the wrong place, for heaven's sake.
Yeah, but ma'am, speaking of
The wrong place.
Yeah.
Sabi nung isa, it's the wrong place. It's in between two flood-prone areas. You'll need so much money to build
reclaim.
mga overpasses, etc. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it seems to me that everybody is against it, except the government.
Pero ma'am, anong explanation ng mga nag-approve nun? Siguro naman minute nila yung ganyan. Since you said the environment group submitted their opposition, siguro naman may sagot doon. Ano sagot nila?
Wala. Bakit di sila sasagot Hindi naman kailangan sagutin yung Kongreso hindi pinakinggan.
yes, but ma'am,
Anong explanation?
It's not as if these people were making assertions. These people were showing the evidence. They were showing proof.
Yes.
Yeah.
300 hectares of flood tides. I will be writing about the environment part next week. But they showed, everyone showed proof. And even the NEDA, in its Manila-based Sustainable Development Master Plan, said that all these projects are going to be dysfunctional in a few decades.
Yeah.
Ano bang ibig? Kung dysfunctional in a few decades, bakit nila inaprubahan tapos binigyan pa nila ng subsidy?
Yeah, but
Bakit?
but
You know
ma'am,
what I mean? So,
just to clarify there, then where this project currently stands.
Apparently,
The matter of the
it
ECC. I'm curious about the matter of the ECC. If you could qualify that. Obviously, as you said, people were given the chance to give their position papers. There must have been some EIA because there was some kind of an ECC. What exactly kind of ECC are we talking about here?
they don't even have a copy of it. The civil society groups, they asked for the environmental assessment. And apparently, it's in the law that the environmental assessment does not have to be publicly shown.
How,
Are you-
but how could that be? Under the EIA law, community acceptance is a very explicit condition. How is that possible?
Well, you tell me, how is it possible? How is it possible that they are even building in Barangay Taliptip and whatever other barangay that is, because those barangays are forest protected, environmentally protected. And, it should not be even sold. And yet, apparently it has been sold. So you tell me, how come that is?
Ma'am, let me put it this way, ma'am. Are you preparing a legal challenge with this project?
Sweetie, I'm just writing about it because I'm looking at all these documents, and they seem to be absolutely credible, and they're talking about facts. When you're talking about 8.3 centimeters a year subsidence, that's a fact. I mean, that's not something that you just get out of thin air. When you talk about 200 hectares of mud flats, yung mud flats are the ones that they have absolute ability to carry water so that there's no flooding. Ayan, mawawala yan. You talk about a river that's going to be built over. These are all against the law. And yet, the law has given it. So don't ask me. You ask somebody in Congress.
Okay, what's this? So obviously, this was a political decision.
Transactional, my husband says.
Yeah.
This is what it is. The airport is 2,500 hectares. Okay, the airport, and then there's the Aero City, and apparently that's 12,000 hectares. I mean, of which 2,500 is the airport. That's where the money is. Can you imagine all that? And while it is being constructed, not a single centavo will be paid to the government on any of the transactions undertaken for importations, customs duties, etc. It is such a sweet deal. It is unbelievable.
Isn't there profit sharing with government?
Where is the government sharing in the profit? The government, no, sabi nila na when after all the investment costs have been
12%.
recouped, then they will give the government basta anything over 12% of
Sa gobyerno na.
the rate of return. that's like a cold comfort. That's like a when our ship comes in, Lucci, I'll give you half of my share. The ship will never come in. That's it. I'm not saying anything that is not evidence-based.
Evidentiary.
Yeah.
No. Nothing.
Yeah, but ma'am, I just want to know, I mean, taking this particular project out of the picture first, how does and how should a typical BOT project operate, and how is this glaringly different from how BOTs have been done in the past?
But this is glaringly different because this goes against the environmental, so many environmental laws and so many Philippine laws. All right, it's different. This is different also because the government has allowed itself to give a subsidy. How it can say that a tax exemption is not a subsidy, a customs duty exemption is not a subsidy, a value-added tax exemption is not a subsidy, I don't know.
Okay.
You know,
What about the provisions on sorry, Amy, go ahead.
So there is no precedent for this kind of project. You can't think of any project, maybe in the past 30 years, na yung conditions for the project. You can't think of a similar project.
well, in the past, I don't know, but this is a very huge project. It's 714 billion pesos, and some say it's going to be up to 1.3 trillion pesos. It's the largest project in the PPP list of projects. To give you an idea of the magnitude.
Yeah.
And you would think, oh boy, fantastic. There are gains, there will be people who are gaining, but the losses to the Philippines will be tremendous. And then the government thinks it's going to it's going to manage that airport. It will never do. That airport will be, I don't know, unless they do something humongous to rebuild it or to rehabilitate it. I don't know what they're going to do.
Okay, I may sound really, well, just playing devil's advocate. What about, in terms of helping the tourism industry get up on its feet, considering how it's now really pummeled by this COVID?
Sinasabi yun. Who is it helping? There will be employment. I mean, they're helping now the fishermen. That's a fisherman this time. But that thing is supposed to last forever. So there are the fishermen next year, I mean, in the next generations who will never have that opportunity to fish. That's what the environmental impact assessment is supposed to give you. All right? What are you doing? You're talking about building residential areas. Who is the one that's going to profit from that?
No, as a gateway to tourists. That's how they tout airports to be, right? The first thing that tourists see about the country is the airport and that's how they market airports,
It's the wrong
right?
place to put the airport. I mean, it's like putting, it's all right if it's just their money. Kung sila lang ang mapiperwisyo, no problema. They'll put 714 and they'll get it out in 30 years. No problem. My problem starts when the environment starts getting affected. When when the subsidence becomes more, when there's more flood-prone areas, when the fishermen are deprived of their livelihood. And we're not only talking about this generation of fishermen. We're talking about forever generations of fishermen who are deprived of their. So I want to know. Here are the benefits. I want to know if anybody ever came up with the costs. Hindi ba? But I know that the government's not. The government is not going to make money for the government. Somebody is making money somewhere. But the government's not getting money from taxes, from nothing. And then they say, oh, you're employing a lot of people. I don't know how many people you're going to be employing, but I want to see what the costs and benefits are. Isn't it, it should be public. It should be made public. Itong mangyayari, itong mga ma-employ dito, itong mawawala ng employment. Pero the most shall we say, the most prejudicial is what happens to that area. the effect it will have on flooding, on subsidence, etc. And then there's this safety problem. Have you ever seen a bird
Airplanes.
strike on an airplane?
Yes, it
You know?
can cause a crash. Yes, right.
You know, come
Yes.
come the winter part, you know, December, March,
Yes.
the birds are going to fly, and they're going to hit those airplanes until, of course, they all die down. They die off. And may I remind you
Excuse me.
of the zoonotic effects. Hindi ba? This whole COVID-19 is because the zoonotic effect of people pressing against the environment and letting, you know, and getting closer and closer, so that in this case it's the birds and the bats, etc., who fight back. That's it.
Okay.
I mean, that is our contribution.
Okay. Okay. Former Economic Planning Secretary Solita Monsod. Ma'am, maraming salamat po for joining us tonight, and please do give our regards to Commissioner Monsod.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Nice talking to you again.
Okay, see
Maraming
you.
salamat po.
Luigi, please,
Yes, ma'am.
please continue this. I mean, you have to.
Yes, ma'am. Yan, si Ami. Marami kayong mga ano rito.
Okay.
Hindi lang ako. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you po. And that will be all for this Monday edition of The Chiefs. We hope what was discussed here will keep the conversation going. I'm Ed Lingao.
I'm Ami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star.
I'm Lucy Cruz Valdez of News 5.
I'm Robbie Alampay, and we are One News.